February 19th, 1986. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A man pulls his car into the parking lot of a Salvation Army halfway house. It's just past 6 in the evening. He's 3 weeks into a curfew a federal judge ordered him to keep, and a judge also ordered him to do it unarmed. No firearms, no hired security. A convicted smuggler, cooperating with the government, going in and out of one of the most dangerous drug cartels in the world. And the court had taken away his ability to protect himself. He never makes it through the door. 4 men are waiting with a machine gun. It's over in seconds. His name is Barry Seal. 18 months earlier, he was flying cocaine into the United States for Pablo Escobar's cartel. 6 months before that, he was working with the DEA and the CIA on a sting operation the White House would use on national television. And on the night he died, the agency that had used him for years was nowhere to be found. This is the story of a man 3 different institutions all needed, right up until the moment none of them needed him alive. Adler Berryman Seal, everyone called him Barry, was born in Baton Rouge in 1939 and became a commercial pilot young, flying for TWA out of the mid-1960s. He was reportedly one of the youngest captains in the airline's history, checked out on the Boeing 707 while still in his 20s. That career ended in 1972. Federal agents arrested him for conspiring to smuggle explosives to anti-Castro Cuban exiles in Mexico. The charges were eventually dismissed 2 years later over prosecutorial misconduct. But by then, TWA had already fired him. And Barry Seal's straight aviation career was finished before he was 35. What came next filled the gap. Smuggling, first small, the kind of side operation involving Cuban cigars that barely registers as criminal enterprise. But it gave him something more valuable than money. It gave him a reputation. He was a pilot who could move things across borders and land planes on strips most people wouldn't attempt at night. In an industry built on exactly that skill, word travels. By the mid-1970s, Seal was flying marijuana. By 1978, cocaine. By the early 1980s, he was flying directly for the Ochoa family, one of the founding families of the Medellin cartel, alongside Pablo Escobar. The numbers reported around his operation are staggering, even accounting for the fact that most of them come from journalistic and biographical reconstruction rather than a single audited court record. Loads in the range of 1,000 kilograms per run, roughly $500,000 a flight, and career earnings estimated well into 8 figures. What's not in dispute is his 1984 federal indictment, which charged him in connection with 462 pounds of cocaine, a load valued at the time at roughly $168 million on the street. He wasn't a cartel leader, he was infrastructure. The kind of specialist an organization the size of the Medellin cartel needed dozens of, and rarely found this good. Seal based much of this operation out of a small regional airport in Mena, Arkansas. From 1982 to 1985, the same stretch of years, he was also reportedly running weapons and supplies to Nicaraguan Contra rebels, the US-backed force fighting Nicaragua's Sandinista government. For decades, Mena has been the subject of persistent allegations that Arkansas state government, and specifically then-Governor Bill Clinton, knew about the scale of what was happening at that airport and did nothing to stop it. Arkansas's own Attorney General publicly asked in 1991 why no state prosecutions had ever come out of it. Here's what needs to be said plainly. That specific claim that Clinton personally knew and protected the operation has never been substantiated. It rests heavily on the account of one former state trooper. It's been investigated multiple times by multiple bodies. No prosecution, no official inquiry has ever confirmed it. It remains an allegation, not a finding, one this video is not going to resolve, and won't pretend to. What is confirmed is simpler and almost as strange. a small-town Arkansas airport became, for several years, one of the operational hubs connecting a Colombian cocaine cartel to a covert U.S. foreign policy operation. And nobody at any level of government was ever held accountable for what ran through it. In March 1984, facing a serious federal case out of Florida, Seal made a decision that would define the rest of his short life. He contacted federal investigators and offered to become an informant. The operation that resulted became one of the most consequential drug stings of the decade. With camera equipment supplied by the CIA, confirmed through DEA and CIA reading room records, hidden cameras were installed on Seal's aircraft in June 1984. Flying into Nicaragua, Seal's plane reportedly photographed roughly 1,200 kilograms of cocaine being loaded in an operation connected to a Nicaraguan official named Federico Vaughn. The operation was compromised almost immediately. Details and photographs leaked to the press within months, blowing whatever cover Seal still had. But the damage was already politically useful. In March 1985, President Reagan displayed one of the photographs in a televised address, using it as evidence connecting Nicaragua's Sandinista government to cocaine trafficking, part of a broader push to justify continued support for the Contras. Media critics later argued that framing oversold what the photograph actually proved. That dispute has never fully settled. What's certain is that a smuggler-turned-informant's covert operation became a prop in a presidential address within a year of it happening. Seal's cooperation didn't erase his legal exposure. In February 1984, he was convicted in a Quaalude smuggling case out of Fort Lauderdale. He faced a separate indictment in Baton Rouge for cocaine possession and money laundering, because he'd signed a cooperation agreement with federal investigators. The sentencing outcome was almost absurdly light for a man who'd spent a decade moving cocaine for one of the most violent criminal organizations on the planet. 6 months probation on 2 drug felony counts, a nightly curfew enforced at a Salvation Army halfway house in Baton Rouge, and one more condition from the judge that would matter more than anything else in this story. Seal was barred from carrying a firearm or hiring armed protection. A man who had spent years working both sides of a cartel in a covert federal operation was, by court order, defenseless. He kept the curfew for 3 weeks. On February 19, 1986, Barry Seal was shot dead in the halfway house parking lot with a .45 caliber MAC-10 submachine gun. 3 Colombian men, Miguel Velez, Luis Carlos Quintero Cruz, and Bernardo Vasquez, were eventually convicted of the murder and sentenced to life in prison. All 3 had documented ties to the Medellin cartel's Ochoa organization. The most credible explanation, reported extensively by journalists who covered the case at the time and since, is that Escobar or the Ochoa family placed a bounty on Seal once his cooperation with U.S. investigators became known. That's the best sourced account available. It is not, however, a fact any court specifically found. The murder convictions established who pulled the trigger and their cartel ties, not a documented order chain proving exactly why. Either way, the man who'd flown for the cartel, informed on the cartel, and photographed cocaine for the CIA died exactly the way the job made likely, at the one moment a judge's order had left him with no way to defend himself. The story doesn't end with Seal's death. One of his former aircraft did not. A plane Seal had previously owned was later operated by Southern Air Transport, a CIA proprietary company. In October 1986, that plane was shot down over Nicaragua, carrying weapons to the Contras, and its sole survivor, Eugene Hazenfuss, was captured. The Hazenfuss shootdown is widely credited as the incident that blew the entire Iran-Contra affair into public view. Congress's Kerry Committee investigated the broader network in 1989 and confirmed on the record that elements of the Contra supply operation involved drug trafficking, and that parts of the US government knew about it, in some cases making payments to people connected to it. That's a real, documented finding. What the Kerry Committee did not conclude is that Barry Seal himself had been a long-term, formally recruited CIA asset. Those are two separate findings, and this story shouldn't blur them into one. Here's where the story stops being settled history, beyond what's officially confirmed. The camera equipment, the plane's later ownership, the Kerry Committee's general findings. A further claim exists, advanced most prominently by journalist Daniel Hopsicker in his book, Barry and the Boys. That claim holds that Seal was a CIA operative for far longer and far deeper than the record shows, tied to a covert network sometimes called Operation Black Eagle, and that his death may have suited more than one party who wanted him silenced, not just the cartel that killed him. No declassified CIA document and no court finding has ever corroborated this deeper version of the story. It remains, as of today, an allegation from an investigative author, not a settled account. This video isn't going to claim otherwise, and neither should you if you're citing this footage anywhere else. What can be said without qualification? A man flew cocaine for one of history's most violent cartels, informed on that same cartel for the DEA, ran a camera-equipped sting for the CIA that ended up in a presidential address, and died unarmed by court order 3 weeks into a curfew. And the full account of who else might have wanted him gone has never been tested in a courtroom under oath by anyone. Barry Seal spent the last 2 years of his life working for 3 different institutions that all needed exactly what he could do. And every one of them let him walk into that parking lot without so much as a way to defend himself. The cartel that killed him got a conviction. The government that used him never had to answer under oath for what it knew and when. That gap between the one part of this story that ended in a courtroom and the part that never did is where this one stays open. For more videos like this, please subscribe.